Hello there, and welcome back to the Closet Historian, and welcome back to me, because of course I'm back home now after rather a grand adventure, as you've seen. And on my road trip, I did stop into several sort of vintage hotspot cities: Palm Springs, Hollywood, and Las Vegas, and of course I had been saving up to perhaps pick up a few goodies if I found them, and I did find a few things. So of course I wanted to share those with you today. And we begin with Palm Springs. Now I did pop into a couple of different antique malls and vintage stores who I was having some strange weather while I was in Palm Springs. At one point it was raining torrentially. I meant to hit up a few more stores the day I was leaving to drive into LA, but it was raining so hard that some of the stores I wanted to go into were like sandbagging their doors to make sure that water wasn't rushing in, and we're having like leaks and stuff like that. It was like a torrential rain in the desert. So there were a couple places that I had to skip this time on my visit to Palm Springs just because of time constraints and wild weather. And walking around this place, I wasn't finding a ton of accessories or clothing, but I did eventually spot this bracelet here. I will show you a close-up, of course, as well. This just has little garnet cabochons on a brass chain link bracelet. This is probably from the, 1940s through the 1960s, sometime in there. Not really sure exactly. This one is unsigned. Doesn't seem to have any markings on the back of any kind. Of course, it's a tiny bit tarnished and scratched up, but I don't mind when vintage things look vintage, and I love a nice chunky bracelet. This was on the higher end of price for a bracelet, I suppose, that I would normally pay. This one was, I think, $35, which is a little near the top of what I would pay for a bracelet, but of course I was on vacation and having a little bit of a, like I had saved up to treat myself on this like 30th birthday vacation that I was on, so I didn't mind splurging a tiny bit for a very fun bracelet in Palm Springs. And then actually from that same booth at the antique mall, I spotted this copper cuff, and I am new to collecting copper jewelry. It's a new colorway for me, new color of metal for me. I don't usually collect copper, but this sort of dark toned, I think it's like Renoir who makes these, I could be wrong, from the 1950s and 60s tone of copper I really do quite like. So it's been a long time coming that I started my copper collection, and seeing as my gold and silver tone jewelry collection is so strong at this point, I need to kind of diversify, and so I'm dipping my toe into copper now, and I was happy to pick up this bracelet. I'm not exactly sure how much this one was. I think it was on the cheaper side at like $18, but I do like a cuff because I can't put them on my hand this way, so I like a cuff like this that I can slip on because my hand is quite wide, so bangles are out of the question for me. And then in that rather almost flooded antique mall just before I left Palm Springs, I was looking at all the vintage glassware, and I always tell myself that I can't have any of the barware, all the fun glasses, because I don't yet actually have a bar or a kitchen. So I don't let myself buy that kind of stuff just because, as much as I love it, it would have to be like in storage until I get my own place, and that just seems like a waste of money and silly, and I should be saving the money to buy my own place, as we know. But there, every once in a while, there are exceptions. And I saw this buddy. I don't know if you can see here. I'll put a close-up as well. This is like an ironwork gate and skull themed glass. Ocean, Thailand. These ones are made by Ocean, Thailand, whoever that is. I'm not even positive that these are vintage. I don't think these are 50s or 60s. I think they're probably quite new, but they have little skulls on them and like they're Gothic ironwork design. So I saw one and I was just going to get the one, and then the guy was like, oh, we actually have two of those, and he went back and fetched me the other one. So I can have, dinner or lunch with these lovely Gothic glasses with a friend sometime in the future. Again, I try not to collect housewares because I don't yet have a house, but every once in a while, when you're in Palm Springs and they have so much fun glassware, and then one turns out to be quite goth, I had to have them. And then the last and most spectacular item that I picked up in Palm Springs was a brooch. I had mentioned that in this clip here, you can see this white celluloid box in the front and that it's empty. I bought the brooch that was sitting in that box. Everything at the store was very nice, but a lot of it was 60s to 80s vintage, not a lot of 1950s and 60s things going on in here. More accessories, but definitely not clothes. And so there wasn't a lot for me to peruse that was like pre-1950s stuff, because we all know, like, I'm not really a 60s or 70s gal. I appreciate it and like it, but I just don't buy it for myself. But there was one spectacular maybe like late 30s to 40s brooch, and it was this friend right here. Now, the size of this. Look how giant it is. It's absolutely giant. And I've never seen one like this. So I really splurged on this, but I've seen a lot of brooches in this sort of metalwork style, this kind of like base metal, brass kind of dipped even. I'm not even sure. I don't think this is actually like properly plated or anything. And rhinestone jewelry from the 1940s. I see a lot like this, but I'd never seen one in this style or this size. This one's just gargantuan. And so I did splurge quite a lot on this one. This one was quite expensive. This one was $120. I would never normally pay that much for a brooch, but this one was just spectacular, and I hadn't found a lot of other things in Palm Springs, and so I felt like this was going to be my spectacular Palm Springs purchase, and so I went for it. And of course, I can wear this with any color, with anything forever. I would, if I wasn't wearing my spiders today, I could easily wear this with this green sparkly top I have on here. But for holiday, for dinner, for brunching, for any time, honestly, I think this is spectacular, and I'm so happy to have added it to my collection. I've never seen anything like it, like I said. Oh, and I guess the last item, actually, the truly last item that I picked up in Palm Springs was this. My friend and I walked into, we were done with dinner kind of early, and so we drove to like downtown Palm Springs area where like all the, I don't know, like bars and little shopping bits are, and they were actually having like a street market fair thing going on, and we wandered into a crystal shop down there, and this is not a natural crystal. This is a silicone carbide. Carbonum. It's a man-made creation. I think this was made like out of carbon when they were trying to make fake diamonds or something like that, and they ended up making this weird iridescent crystal thing, but it looks like it's from outer space. And I don't care that it's man-made. It's very fun, and I think, you know how I like cabinets of curiosity kind of stuff, and I thought this would be great in my the cabinet of curiosity that I want to make an entire house of curiosity one day, and I thought this would fit in very well in that situation. And it is supposed to be, I don't really ascribe to the whole crystal healing kind of stuff personally, but it says it's thought to be a master healer that shines lights in all area of your life and in all chakras. It purifies mind, body, and spirit, and encourages intuition, discernment, eye strain, and any computer-related injuries. So I feel like it's good to keep here on my desk, right? If it's going to heal me of my eye strain and computer-related injuries. Also, it's just very pretty, and again, looks like something out of Star Wars. And then in volume 3 of Field Notes, I mentioned I did pick up quite a few things when I was in Hollywood at a store called Star Day Vintage. The sign outside looks like this. It doesn't look very professional. I don't know how long they've been there, but the store inside was very nice, and I had a great time poking around in here. It was definitely the best vintage shop that I went to in Hollywood that day. I didn't get to go to many, and I would love to go back and go to more, but of course it was a stunted and strange day, so, you know, I didn't have the most restraint either, and I'll show you what I picked up. But one of the first things I found in that store was this yardage of vintage fabric. I think it was about 1.5 yards of a vintage rayon. It's not actually a crepe, it's just like a woven rayon. It's got a smooth finish to it, but it's just this navy blue with nautical flags on it. I thought it would make a very fun nautical blouse to wear with wide leg pants in the summertime, and so I was happy to find vintage fabric. Of course, always happy to find fabric in general, especially rayon, because we all know how I love a printed rayon. And then of course I'm always going through the piles of gloves, and these bright orange ones certainly caught my eye, and they would catch anyone's eye, honestly, at this color. And I have a lot of orange gloves in my rainbow already, but these are practically fluorescent and perfect for Halloween season, honestly. And we all know how I love finding a glove that actually fits me. These do seem to be a size 7.5 or 8, perhaps. They are just nylon gloves from the 1950s or 60s, but I really like them. They're quite ridiculously neon, and I think that's fun. So I picked up these gloves as well. Also at Star Day Vintage, I picked up a little bit of vintage jewelry in general. I'll show you. But I got these dress clips. These are a tarnished brass dress clip that, of course, are a nice massive size. And we all know how I love dress clips. I have a video all about dress clips here on this channel because people are always trying to tell me they're shoe clips. But these are dress clips, I promise. They're a little bit different than shoe clips, and usually you can tell just by the clip on the back. But these are ginormous brass dress clips that, of course, I could not leave behind. I quite like antiqued brass. Of course, they were probably not this finish originally, but I thought they were really cool and like steampunk almost looking, even though they're more of a Art Deco shape. I don't often see dress clips out and about. I collect them mostly from online, so it was nice to see these. And these ones were $32 for these. It is it's a little bit on the steeper side. You're kind of just like paying the fancy place tax because I was like shopping in Hollywood. But like, would I pick these up for $28 on Etsy and then pay shipping? Yes. So that's kind of what I think about when I am out shopping for vintage in person. If something seems like a tiny bit steep to me, like, ooh, that's probably like $5 more than I would pay online, I always like remind myself, like, well, would you buy them for $28 plus $5 shipping? And the answer is yes. So it's just like, I have many ways of justifying to myself, and that's no surprise, honestly. But that was not the only set of dress clips I picked up at Star Day. I also picked up these little, much more intricate 1930s dress clips as well. These have a little bit of a faux pearl and black enamel, it's probably black glass cabochon in the back. These are, again, a little bit on the smaller side, but still very pretty and quite detailed up close. Almost like opposite in style. This is quite deco, this one, and then this is much more of a filigreed kind of look. probably from around the same time period, however, just different styles. These were around the same price as the other dress clips, and I didn't have anything with a black stone or accent of any kind in my dress clip collection, so I was happy to add these to my wardrobe. And then lastly, at Starday, I picked up this 1940s brooch with a very large kind of garnet colored stone here. I really liked the red, again, against the green even, it looks very fun for like holiday. I would wear that just even not holiday, honestly. I quite like red and green together. It's a shame that it's always such a Christmassy association, but I think they look very pretty together just as they are, even without the festive situation. But this is just a very pretty 1940s brooch that I didn't have a red rhinestone 40s brooch, and so I felt free to indulge, even though I had just gotten that giant multicolored one in Palm Springs. We all know how I love a 1940s brooch, but I didn't have one of this exact style, and so now I remedied that. And then while I was waiting to check out, there were some other customers in front of me that were taking quite a long time to make some decisions on things. And they were buying quite a lot, so I was trying to keep my distance and let that guy make quite a huge sale. But I was looking into the back of some different cabinets to see things that I had maybe missed, and I found this set. So here's the bracelet for it. I will show you a close-up of this set because the stones are rather iridescent looking. They're almost like a sort of moon glow lilac pink colored fall leaf, and they almost look like kind of like moonstone. And they had the bracelet, necklace, and earrings matching set from the 1950s or 60s, and I just loved the Art Nouveau quality of it. It almost reminds me of like Lalique glass jewelry, of course very different in style, but similar enough that the association came to mind from the turn of the century, that when they were using a lot of glass and natural motifs in Art Nouveau jewelry. This is like the 1950s version of that. And look at the way the stones shine with the camera like that. They don't really look pink or lavender. They just kind of look iridescent. If I had to guess, I would say this set is probably from the early half of the 1960s. It is by Florenza. I really love it. It reminds me of some of the Lisner leaf pieces, but Florenza I like as well. So no, I don't mind about the brand names, as we know. This set here for the earrings, bracelet, and necklace was $68, which is quite pricey for me. I usually don't spend that much on vintage jewelry in general, but this set, I really enjoyed the unique colorway of it. And of course, I was on vacation. I was sad. I was willing to splurge, let's just say. And I'm really excited about adding this to my collection and being able to wear it for many years to come. Of course, I feel like because it is this strange moon glow iridescent color, it kind of matches everything. I really need to make some lower necklined dresses, because we all know how I like a high neckline to be able to wear brooches, but I need to make some things with a little bit of a lower neckline to be able to wear my necklace collection more often. And now, of course, I will have to go ahead and forever be searching for the brooch to match this set, in case it came with one from now on. So if you've ever seen the brooch that matches this from Florenza, let me know. And then whenever I go to Los Angeles, I don't go that often, but I think the last time I was there was in 2016, perhaps? I think. But every time I go there, I try and pop in to Remix Vintage Shoes. Some of you know about this brand. They're a very popular retro shoe brand, and I like going into their retail location so I can try on the different styles that I may want to purchase in the future and know which size to get, because some of their styles I'm a 9.5 and some of their styles I'm a 10. So I like to go in, try on a few different pairs that I may want to buy even years later, and just know what size I want for the future. So I think it's a fun stop, even if you don't plan on purchasing anything that day. And because over the last year I've known I would be going to Remix, I had had my eye on a couple of styles that I might want to try on when I was there, and kind of like be my purchase of the trip. So the style that I had decided on were these. These are, I think, called the Vogue. If I'm wrong, I'll correct it on the screen. This is the cognac brown colorway, obviously, and I just thought this would be a very practical shoe for me, which is unusual for me, as we know I like to buy a lot of fancy high heels and such. But these are, almost a flat shoe. They're actually quite padded, very comfortable. This is the 9.5 in these. Because they are leather, they will stretch a tiny bit, but they are kind of like a perfect fit on me. So even if they stretch a little, it'll be okay, whereas the 10 felt almost a little bit loose. So I went with the 9.5 in these, and I just think these would be great with wide leg trousers or with dresses in the summertime. Anytime I need a more comfortable and yet still very cute and retro shoe. But then, because I was trying on other styles that I had been thinking about, just to know for future reference, I did fall for another pair of shoes at Remix, and that was these. I can't actually remember the style name of this, so I'll put it on the screen here with these shoes. But of course, this is the dark green reptile, like faux reptile skin leather version of this shoe. It does have a little bit of a platform on there, so they're not terribly uncomfortable or anything, even though they are a taller heel, of course, by far. But just a gorgeous 1940s reproduction shoe. I love green, as we know. I have a lot of dark green accessories, so this will match a lot of my wardrobe, I could wear it with this blouse, for example. I also got these heels in a 9.5, by the way, as well. I find that with their like more sandally styles, whether it's a heel or kind of a flat, I'm usually 9.5, and then like completely closed, like closed toe pump kind of heels, I usually go for the 10. So that's kind of my rule of thumb for Remix. And then the last two items I have to show you from my time in Los Angeles, which as we know was rather tumultuous, are from the Huntington Gardens or Huntington Library and Gardens gift shop. They have a very nice gift shop there. If you were looking for an artsy gift for someone, that'd be a great place to go and find something quite unique. And in the back of one of the cases, I spotted these embroidered and sequined brooches. This is an Apatura iris butterfly embellished brooch pin. It's like embroidered and sequined felt, but very high quality. And this company is called Trovelore, and they are an embroidery atelier specializing in the use of needlework and mixed materials to craft a line of embellished jewelry. Having looked up this brand online, it seems that they are often offered in museum gift shops, seems to be like their main retailer. So maybe a museum near you has this brand as well. But it looks like the company was started and is owned by two sisters, and everything is handcrafted in India. It seems like a really cool company, and I felt even better about my purchase, honestly, because these were a little bit expensive, but they're artisanal made and help support like this traditional embroidery technique that's being done in India. So I'm happy to support that as well as have very fun brooches. And I actually have already worn this one out. I wore it this last weekend when I was out vintage shopping and got a ton of compliments on it. And these would be such a lovely gift for a butterfly lover in your life or someone who loves handcrafted embroidery, because the size of the sequins on these and the fine craftsmanship is quite remarkable. They are really very stunning. And the other Trove lore I picked up, you can kind of see it in this box here, is actually a blue beetle. Let's see what kind of beetle it is. It is a electric blue beetle. With its hard back, the blue beetle flourishes in a variety of habitats, munching on vegetative foliage that correspond with their friends and surroundings through sounds and vibrations, making up for their poor eyesight. But this is a black and electric blue beaded and gold work beetle brooch here, and we all know how I like a beetle brooch. So it was already right up my alley. So these were the two that I fell for while at the Huntington, and I'm so happy with them. I was trying to decide between the two, and then I decided that I didn't want to decide, and so I came home with both of them. And yes, I am a spoiled human. I'm very good at treating myself. It's not something I have a problem with. And then leaving California, I did stop in Las Vegas on my way back east. I wasn't originally planning to stop in Vegas, but I was going to try and go up through New Mexico, but for some reason the hotels and everything wasn't working out. So I decided to go up through Vegas and back through southern Utah, which of course you all recently saw in the Field Notes Volume 4. And I pulled into Vegas on a Tuesday afternoon, evening. So not a ton of stuff was open. Unfortunately, several of the stores I wanted to go to were closed. So I ended up squeezing them in the next morning, but I'll talk about that in a second. But luckily on that Tuesday, a store called Glam Factory Vintage was open, where I met an amazing cat named Honey. And having just lost my cat like 2 days beforehand, it was really nice to meet such a friendly kitty. This cat was so kind. It was following me around the store and meowing at me and wanted to be my friend and was rubbing up against my legs. And I knelt down to pet this cat. It jumped on my lap and then on my shoulders. And I was like, oh. And then I couldn't stand because I was too weak to stand with this cat on my shoulders at the time. But it was such a fun experience meeting this cat. So shout out to Honey at Glam Factory Vintage. You were a highlight of my trip. But I did find a few things at Glam Factory Vintage, including this orchid brooch from the 1940s. It has a little cluster of multicolored rhinestones at the bottom. I haven't taken it off its playing card yet. They package all of their jewelry and accessories on playing cards at Glam Factory because it is Las Vegas after all. But this is a very fun brooch. This one is from Coro and it's made in Mexico. This one is actually plated silver. You do see a lot of this style again. But again, for a plated silver brooch, people kept warning me that all the prices in these places were going to be inflated. But maybe in Hollywood, but not in Las Vegas. This was only $18 for a sterling silver plated coral brooch, and I think that is a really good deal, and I'm super happy to have this giant orchid in my collection now. And then to match that brooch, I picked up these multicolored rhinestone clip-on earrings as well. I'll show you these in a close-up. You can get a little bit better idea. What I really like about these is that they are matched but not matched. The little tiny rhinestones are different colors, which is kind of fun, but they matched the brooch quite well, and of course will match all kinds of stuff because they are multicolored like that. So these are again very, very fun for a really nice pair of clip-on earrings. These ones are unsigned, but again, great quality, probably from the 50s or 60s. And these were only $15. And I thought that was a great price for a set of pretty clip-ons like these. And then the last item I picked up at Glam Factory Vintage was this silk novelty print blouse. This has postcards and travel notes on it in this fun pastel and black colorway that I could wear tied with jeans or with high-waisted pants, or even with a pencil skirt, of course. And I just couldn't resist it while I was on my travel road trip to get a travel themed novelty blouse like this. I do like a big silk blouse from the 80s or 90s like this just to wear tied, especially when I'm just going out to run errands. It's just as easy to throw on something like this as it is to throw on a t-shirt, just as comfortable for sure, and just feels a little bit more chic. And then the last vintage item I have to show you today, I picked up at the Red Cat Las Vegas. I have this sitting here to remind me to mention it because it's actually in the other room. I'll show you what it looks like on. This is a brown and what feels like wool blend dress from the 1940s or 50s. I assume this is from like the early half of the 50s, honestly. And it has a matching belt with it still. I had heard about the Red Cat from following Vintage Vandal, Jasmine of Vintage Vandal, on Instagram. She seems to stop in there quite often, so I knew I wanted to have it on my list. And they actually weren't open on Tuesday evening, so I had to go back on Wednesday morning before I left for the Grand Canyon North Rim. But I found this dress there, and I'm super happy to have such a neutral dress that I can, of course, accessorize many different ways, because we all know how much I love accessories. And then the last few things I have to show you have nothing to do with vintage or retro, anything. They're just fun little curiosities that I picked up at the rock shops on my way out of Kanab, Utah. Firstly, I went for this funny little slab of amethyst because I just loved how it was this little tiny chunk that they had put on a wooden pedestal and makes it seem just so fancy. The only thing it's missing really is a tiny, tiny brass plaque that says amethyst, which would really put this over the top. But this is just a $10 piece of Brazilian amethyst stuck on a little wooden plaque. But I just loved how twee it was on its little pedestal. And then I had never seen pyrite specimens like this before. There's a lot of fool's gold out there, especially in the Old West. But these are, I believe, Spanish pyrites. I could be wrong. They form in these cubic shapes, and they're just so cool. And again, space age looking that I had to have one of these. So I added that to the counter as well while I was browsing around this really cool rock shop that is shaped like a rock with a fountain in front. And I also was able to get soft serve and espresso there. So that was nice as well. And at that same shop, I picked myself up a trilobite fossil here as well. Of course, these were some prehistoric arthropods, sort of like sea bug things. But again, just for the cabinet of curiosities, these are rather inexpensive to pick up. I think this was only like $8, and yet is several hundreds of millions of years old. So it's quite a deal for something that ancient. But of course, a lot of the earth was once covered by water and ruled by these little guys. So it was fun to pick up a piece like this for my curiosity cabinet. And I also picked up a several dozen million-year-old ammonite fossil as well here. This one just caught my eye. Again, they have these, by the dozen at these sorts of places. But I didn't have any fossils in my cabinet of curiosities, and so I wanted to fix that problem, and now I have remedied that with my first trilobite and ammonite fossils. So those were the items I picked up on my big Western road trip. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the things I was able to pick up in these places. Again, I had heard that vintage shopping was very overpriced in Palm Springs, Las Vegas, and Hollywood. And I think Hollywood was a little bit elevated, but not as much as I had been led to believe, really. And really, Las Vegas and Palm Springs I found to be actually quite reasonable or similar to prices that I see online or vintage shopping here in Denver, so nothing was particularly shocking to me. I do often see vintage jewelry overpriced at antique malls, overpriced compared to what you can get it for on Etsy or eBay. So really Etsy and eBay are the top spots to get, like online is the top place to buy vintage jewelry because you can get it for a lot cheaper than you can at a lot of antique malls. Thank you as always for indulging me in yet another show and tell. Of course, I am on quite the budget after this trip now for the foreseeable future, and of course I need to go ahead and save up to get a house so I can start buying more glassware. I promise I'll be back with a lot more sewing soon. Thank you for your patience with me, and I will see you all then. Bye.